All right, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Ruth. For any of you who don't know me, I am the proud owner of a wedding invitation business. I have owned my wedding invitation business for the past 15 years and have actually had the great fortune to build it up to a great thriving six-figure business and have seen a lot of success with that. And oddly enough, my background actually isn't in business or in design. I have a master's of counseling degree and used to work with kiddos through Child Protective Services, which was a very hard and very sad job. And turns out that working on wedding invitations is a much happier job. um, all that to be said, I started this company, Wedding Incubator, this past summer as a way to really give back to this industry who has given me so much, and to also kind of bring in some of those skills that I had from my counseling background back into play to be able to help others learn some of those skills that we don't always have. Coming into these very skill-based businesses that we have. So I help people with sales, with marketing, with how to find clients, and then really with a lot of the mindset stuff. So helping you become the person that you need to be in order to reach your goals, in order to grow your business to the level that you want. And that's a lot of what we're going to be working on today. And I'm really excited to jump into that. So if you are just joining us, like I said, make sure to grab a pen and paper. We're going to have some moments where you're able to stop and write down things and really get some stuff onto paper as we go today. So first of all, I just want to start by acknowledging that I know that setting goals can be tricky and it can be hard. For me personally, the hardest part of it, I think, is that often I get so busy in the day-to-day and in sort of following everything that my clients need and the needs of my family. I have two young boys who obviously demand a lot of time and attention, which I love to give, but all of that adds up to me often feeling fairly busy, and that makes achieving goals sometimes feel hard. And the other thing, if I'm honest, is that really achieving my goals requires me to be my best self. And that can be challenging. It's easier sometimes to stay in our old patterns, in our old habits, and to just let things come at us rather than to be very purposeful in how we're running our businesses. So with that being said, I know goals can be hard, but let's go ahead and start with a little exercise today. So grab your pen and paper, and I want you to go ahead and write down, well, first of all, think back to this past year, to 2017, and I want you to write down what went really well for you this year in your business. And no right or wrong answers here, just free form. Go ahead and write down some ideas. What went really well for you in your business this year? And as you're getting that, it also could maybe be some things personally that went really well. Whatever feels like it fits on that list of what went really well. Okay, and so now that you've gotten some things written down, I want you to go ahead and also write what maybe didn't go as well as you had planned. What goals didn't you reach, or what held you back from really seeing the growth that you wanted in your business this year? And go ahead and just spend a couple of minutes writing that down as well. All right, and in an interest of not letting you write a gigantic list of everything that went wrong, because that's not where we're going with this. Let's go ahead and move on. And let's talk about what's the problem with goals? Because I think that that's a good question. Why is it so hard for us to reach our goals? Why is it that every year we can look back and say, these are the things that I didn't meet. These are the things that didn't quite go how I planned. First of all, I think that when we think about setting goals, one of the problems is that we may feel like it's setting us up for this sense of failure, that we've set a goal over and over and over, year after year, to reach some particular place or to do some particular activity, and each year something's happened and we haven't met that, and we have this mounting sense of frustration and sense of failure at ourselves. And that's a problem. That may make it to where you don't really feel like you want to set a lot of goals going forward. The other problem with setting goals would be that it really takes a lot of time and accountability to set your goals and to track them and meet them each year. So that may be something that is in short supply for you, time. And so that may be one of the things that you're a little bit worried about setting some goals this year. The other thing, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but doing what it takes to reach your goals really does require a lot of you and of your best self. And that can be a scary, challenging place to step into. Whether you are at the place where you are just ready to step into that and ready to go in 2018 is your year, that's awesome. Or if you're coming into this feeling a little trepidation and like, you've been burned by your goals in the past, how many years have you set New Year's resolutions and had them just fall by the wayside days or weeks later? Wherever you're at, it's okay. And we are going to go through some really practical strategies today to help make both setting and actually achieving your goals super doable, very easy as possible, and really give you some tools and strategies to help make it a little bit easier to step into that best self and into the reality of what your goal is. So let's move on here and talk about why should we set our goals. We talked about what was the problem with them, but why should we? So first of all, you cannot get to where you want to go in your business if you don't have a plan. Well-known fact, you need to know where you're going or else you end up going nowhere. The other reason why we want to set goals is because if you're anything like me, your business, it's not a hobby. It's not something you're just doing for fun. You have something in mind, some place you want to go to in your business and in your life, whether it's that you want to obtain that six-figure business, or you want to be featured in magazines and in blogs and have that kind of recognition for your business, or you want to win maybe a best of awards and really feel like locally you are known as an industry expert. Or maybe you have a goal for how many clients you really want to work with, that would really make you feel like you have arrived, that you've made it in your business. And underneath all of that, the reason why we want to set goals is because that for sure you have some lifestyle places that you want to be. And whether it's that you started this business because you wanted to set yourself up to be able to have plenty of time to stay home with your kids and raise them, or that you wanted to be able to have your own schedule and go on vacation whenever you wanted and things like that. Having goals allows us to obtain those lifestyle choices that we want. So here's what we're going to cover today to really help you set your goals and get going. First of all, step one, we're going to talk about defining your goals. We need to give you something to work towards, pretty obvious. Step two, though, we're going to make those goals manageable. Our goal here is that we are not going to leave today feeling overwhelmed with our goals. I want you to feel like they are super manageable, super attainable. Step 3, we're going to make a plan. We are going to make a plan so that we can be successful. And kind of putting goals to our goals here, okay? And then step 4, this is really the secret sauce of all of this, is that we are going to find a way to track our goals. And we'll get into that, but like I said, that is going to be the key to helping you attain your goals. And then finally, step 5, we're going to talk about celebrating our goals and putting gratitude into all of our success. So ultimately, where do you want to go? What are your main overarching life goals right now? You know, whether that's that you really want to have more time with your family, or you want to be making enough money that you're every month easily paying your bills. What are those big overarching goals? And really think about that a little bit. And, you know, maybe even on your pen, on your paper, just jot down a couple of those. What are your overarching big goals right now? And these don't have to be the big actionable things we're going to work on, but this is where overall we want our life to be heading towards. All right, so let's jump into step 1. We are going to actually define some goals. So what I want you to do on your paper is go ahead and write down what are your goals for 2018. And this doesn't have to be an exhaustive list. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but go ahead and get 3 to 5 things down. What do you want to see happen in 2018? It could be number of clients. It could be a financial goal. It could be being featured in a particular magazine. And like I said, just jot down 3 to 5 goals of where you want to go in 2018. All right, so now that we've gotten those written down, I want you to do a little exercise with me here. So go ahead and close your eyes, and I want you to imagine that we are 1 year in the future, that we've zoomed ahead to this time next year. You're sitting at your desk, you're looking back over 2018 at this list of goals that you just made, and every single one of them has been accomplished. You have reached all of your goals. And what does that bring up in you? How does that feel? And just really sit there for a moment in that feeling. You know, probably there's some feelings of real excitement, some feelings of achievement. You might be thinking about the things that you're doing now because of achieving those goals. I know for me, when I did this exercise earlier, it also brought up a little bit of sadness for me at why have I not gotten to this place sooner? And it's okay if it brings up some feelings like that as well. All of that is okay. So go ahead and open your eyes back up. I want you to specifically take with you and focus in on some of those more positive feelings of feeling like you accomplished your goals, of feeling the freedom that you now have, of feeling the achievement that you have because you've achieved them. And let's go ahead and move now on to actionable. How are we going to get you to that point we were just visualizing? Okay, so step 2, we are going to make your goals manageable so that you can accomplish them. Now, the first step to doing this is that you most likely are going to need to look at that list of your goals, and you're going to need to break them down into bite-sized chunks. So let's take just one of your goals, and let's go through this process today with just one, and then go ahead and go back later after our call today and go through the others. But for example, one of my goals this year is to reach $150,000 in income. That feels like a big, scary goal. That's a big number. And if I just look at that and say, I need to reach $150,000, I get overwhelmed. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I feel already defeated, like it's never going to happen. But if I break that down, so let's say that I say, okay, instead of 150,000 a year, I need to make 12,500 a month over the 12 months. Okay, honestly, that still feels like a big goal. So let's break it down into weekly. Okay, I need to make $3,125 a week. And then I can look at that and say, oh, yeah, that's no problem. There's many days that I bring in that much cash. I can do that. I can reach $3,125 a month. So break your goals down into smaller bite-sized chunks, whether it's weekly or monthly. And that works really well if it's a numbers goal, right? But what if your goal is not a numbers goal? What if it is something like that you want to be featured in a magazine? Well, break it down into the steps that you're going to need to do in order to get that. So maybe it's that you need to set up your styled shoot that you're going to submit, or you need to choose the wedding that you're going to submit. Maybe it's that you need to write a letter to 5 editors. Maybe you have a goal of submitting 1 wedding per month to be featured until you get featured. So break that goal up into smaller, bite-sized, actionable chunks that you can do that will get you to that main goal. And in this, I should also mention, there are 2 things that your goals have to have if you are going to achieve them. And that is that they need to be measurable and they need to be trackable. And what I mean by that is that you have to be able to tell if you're actually achieving your goal. So for example, if you wrote down a goal that you wanted to be happier in 2018, that's not a bad goal. I mean, it's a good goal, right? But how do you track that? How do you know if you've actually achieved that? So instead, what if you made a goal to each day do one thing that makes you happy? That's something you could track. That's something you could achieve. And at the end of 2018, you could look back and you could say, oh my gosh, I did all those things that made me happier. I had a happier year this year. So make sure your goal is trackable and measurable. And so you'll want to go back, like I said, choose one of those goals that we're going to work on today. And I want you to first of all, make sure that it's trackable and measurable. If it's not, turn it into something that is. And then break it down into some steps. And again, I know I'm putting you on the spot here right now, but go ahead and get started on this. You may want to come back to it later, but go ahead and spend a couple of minutes writing down your action steps, your smaller broken down parts of your goal. Good. And as you guys are writing all of that down, like I said, you'll probably want to come back and spend more time with this and do it with your other goals, but really work on breaking that down. And then let's go ahead and move on to step 3, because it's going to help further fill out what we're doing here. So step 3 is that we want to create a plan of action. So we need our goals to have some action behind them. If we never do anything to reach our goals, we're not going to get there. Just setting them, it's not enough, obviously. So we need to come up with a plan. And this plan needs to be concrete. It needs to be actionable, and it needs to be step by step. Small little baby steps like we just talked about, exactly what you need to do to get to that goal. So here's the thing though, you may not know right now everything that you need to know or everything that you need to do to reach your goal, especially if it's a big goal. For example, with my financial goal of I want to make $150,000 this year, there's some things that I definitely know I need to be doing. And things like consistently writing follow-up emails, doing maybe raising my prices, things like that, right? And so I could come up with some of those things, but it is really good at this stage to stop for a moment and to just do some brainstorming of what do you need to do And what do you need to maybe learn in order to come up with a plan? So let's spend a couple of minutes doing that. Write down a list of everything you can think of that you might need to do or that you might need to learn. Maybe help that you need to get. And come up with a big list. And again, brainstorming. There's no right or wrong answers. We're not putting any time frames to these yet. These are just all kinds of ideas. So go ahead and put those out there. And again, this is something that definitely come back to and really spend some time doing this with all of your goals. But, just come up with a list. And when you get to the point where you feel like you've thought of everything you can, I want you to stretch yourself to think outside of the box. I want you to write down 3 to 5 more things that you could do, that you could add to this plan that are a bit of a stretch, that are a bit outside of the box. And this part can be hard because you feel like you already wrote your whole list. You don't know what else you need, but really think outside of the box. Think of some crazy things that you might be able to do to get there. Some things that scare you a little bit. And with this, let me just say that in order to do that step, you need to be very honest with yourself. You need to be brutally honest. And really in that, you need to think about who do you need to be to reach your goals. So for me, and with my income goal, I know that I need to be extremely focused. I have to have focus in everything I do, or else I allow busyness to overwhelm me and I don't do everything I need to do. The other thing that I have to be very honest with myself about is that I know myself enough to know that I am the kind of person who, when I get overwhelmed with things, I sort of check out and I start letting things just sort of happen to me. And the way that I perceive what's going on around me is that I am out of control and everything is just happening to me and there's nothing I can do to control the situations or to control what's happening. And I know that that is a place that I am tempted to go often, but it's not a place that I like. That is not a person. That's not who I like to be. And if I'm being brutally honest with myself here, as I'm coming up with what do I need to do in order to reach my goals, I know that I need to do everything I can to work against being that person, to work against going to that place of feeling overwhelmed and then shutting down and not doing anything. So as you are putting some of those stretch things, do that as well. And let me also just give you an example of how this has played out for me in a goal that I was finally able to reach this past year that had been on my list for many, many years, and I had just every year struggled with and had felt so defeated with. So that was that I really wanted to become better at managing my money. Now, first of all, if you've been paying attention, the first thing I had to do was I had to change that goal around into something that was measurable and trackable. Just saying I needed to be better at managing my money was a really overwhelming thing to say to myself. I didn't even know where to start with that. So first of all, I came up this past year with a couple of things that broke it down. One was that I was going to weekly spend an hour balancing out my money, dealing with my finances. So that meant logging onto my online bank account, looking at what had cleared, what had not, balancing my accounts basically. And I have a bookkeeper that was working with me as well, but I needed to take some responsibility and I needed to go in and do that weekly. The other goal was that I was not going to have any overdraft charges. And let me just tell you, if you never go in and look at your finances, it's really easy to rack up overdraft charges. And that was something that had been part of my story for so many years, and I was so tired of it. So that became a goal, no overdraft charges. And then I had to come up with a plan of how am I going to do that? So the things that went on my list when I started to brainstorm was that, first of all, I felt like I needed to do some learning around how to manage money, because I felt like that was something I didn't have whole lot of knowledge about. It wasn't something that I had ever learned. When I went to college, I had no idea how to balance a checkbook and just had massive troubles with that because nobody had ever taught me. But I really had realized that it was something that I could learn. So that one on my list was find a course to take. And then I also read 3 or 4 books. One that I really, really liked was called Profit First. And that was just life-changing in my business, and is something that I continue to work on and continue to implement. So I needed to learn. And then I needed to put some really actionable steps. So I put a calendar reminder in my calendar each week so that I didn't accidentally book my week full of meetings or whatever and then feel like I just didn't have time to go do it. So I did that. And then I also needed to go outside of the box a little bit. So I started delving into money mindset, and I started working on that and on doing some inner work of why do I feel like I'm bad at managing money. And I started putting things like mantras or quotes all around my desk, things like I'm good at managing my finances, and I put all of that around. I also did some reframing exercises. So instead of feeling like I'm really out of control at managing my money, instead I feel like I am capable of managing my money. So all sorts of different out of the box things. And becoming really honest with myself there really allowed me to get to that point of making that goal. And actually, all of that to be said, my bookkeeper actually decided to go back to school to get her CPA in September and left me. And instead of hiring another bookkeeper, I took over managing my books. And because I had learned enough at this point and felt confident enough. And I can't tell you how much confidence I feel in myself these days because I'm able to balance my books, to file my taxes, to do it all. I'm capable. And that's not a message that I had to myself before. I am going to hire another bookkeeper because I just don't have time to do that all the time. But just knowing that I can was a huge, huge accomplishment for me this year. So there's an example of how I've done this in my own life. The next thing that I need you guys to do as we're talking about this step is that as you have brainstormed all of these ideas of what you might need to learn or what you might need to do, I need you to actually go in and put them on your calendar, assign dates to them. If you know that you need to go take a course on money management, when are you going to do that? Is it going to be February? By the end of February, you're going to have that course taken. If you know that you're going to submit a wedding to a magazine every month, put that on your calendar of the day that you're going to work on putting all the stuff together and then sending it out. Really assign some dates to it, and that's going to help you really get to the point of being able to reach your goals. Okay, so let's move on to step 4. And like I said at the beginning, really I believe that this is the secret sauce to meeting your goals. So step 4 is that we need to track our goals. Now, first of all, before we get into this, I want to acknowledge that I know, at least for me, I often feel when I hear things like track or manage or things like that, that I don't like it. It doesn't jive with my left brain creative personality, and I rebel against it. So that's okay if that's you. And I have some really creative ideas today to share with you to help you start tracking your goals, because we have to track them. And we need to for 2 reasons. One is that if you're tracking your goals, you can make small tweaks along the way rather than not tracking it at all, getting to the end of the year and then realizing that you're way short of meeting that goal. So for example, with my financial goal, if I have that goal of how much I need to make each week, if I get to Wednesday in a week and I say, oh, I haven't quite made it, I know that I need to do some extra follow-ups, or I need to put together a special or whatever, right? So I can make those small tweaks along the way to keep me on the path. The other thing that's really important about tracking your goals is that it really sets up some momentum for you. If you see that you are achieving those steps along the way, it builds this exciting energy. Like I said, when I was sharing that story about managing my finances, there was an energy all year long for me that just kept building and building and building as I checked off my action plan, that I was like, I'm capable of this. I'm going to achieve this. I've got this. And to get to this point in the year where I say, yes, I'm very good at managing my money. I track my money well. And I completely confidently can say that now because I've had that energy built all year long, and that kept me on track. So let's dive into how to track. And like I said, I have some exciting creative ideas to do. So the first one, this is actually what I mainly use. It's called the chalkboard method. And this method, I'm not sure if it originated from them, but where I learned it was from the Being Boss ladies. And they have an awesome podcast. I think they have a book that's just about to come out. Would definitely recommend that you check them out. But basically the concept with the chalkboard method is that you want something in front of your face every day. So I actually have a chalkboard. It could be a whiteboard, it could be a poster board, it could be anything, but something big that can be right, on your wall in front of you every day. And then you want to set up your goals on it. So I do mine quarterly. And then I break it down into 2-week sections, and I track my money goal on this. So if, for example, if I was trying to make, $8,000, I would put 8 little boxes. And then for each 1,000 that I make, I check it off. You could also do it, with smaller boxes or whatever. The other really cool concept with this one is that you also leave some room for extra. So if I've made all of my boxes for all of the weeks, for all of the money that I want to make, at the bottom I say extra, and I put some extra boxes in there. And it is just such a great place. There's something about telling yourself and telling the universe, the world at large, that you are open to receiving. And that's a big part of this method and a big part of why it works. And so check that out. I do think if you go to their website, which is beingboss.club, there is a podcast on the chalkboard method that you could get much better instructions than what I just gave you there. Okay, another really creative way to track your goals would be doing a goal journal. So to do this, you can do it either formally or informally. So some people are real journal writers and they just write and write and write and just sort of free form, and that's fine. If that's not you, you can still do a goal journal. You could have it be very specific, like maybe each morning or each night. You sit down and you say, here's the 3 things that I'm going to do today to meet my goals. Here's what went really well today. Here's what didn't go well today. Here's my goal for tomorrow. Something like that. So a goal journal would be a great idea. Another really fun, creative way to track your goals would be tracking art. There's a lady out of Australia named Tash Corbin, Tash, and then her last name is Corbin, Corbin, I believe. And she makes and sells this awesome coloring books, basically kind of like the adult coloring books that are so popular, but they're specifically to track your momentum. So for example, if you had a goal of making $1,000, you would have a flower with petals, and each petal would represent $25 or whatever. And so you would color them in as you go. And it's just a really creative visual reminder to yourself of where you're at meeting your goals. So that's a really fun way to track your goals as well. Another option for those of you who are maybe more personal or who maybe need a little bit more accountability is that having an accountability partner or a mastermind group that you work with to really help you stay on track and reach your goals can be very helpful. And that is another thing that I layered into my year around my finances. I had a mastermind that I worked with for about 4 months of the year, where I knew every week I was going to have to check in, and I was going to have to tell them if I did my weekly finance check-in or not. And that was a lot of motivation to keep going. I did not want to show up and say, yeah, I didn't get that done this week. That was just too embarrassing for me. So that can be a good way. One other way would be working with a coach, and that is something that I offer, and that I have utilized in my own life with other coaches. So if you feel like you really need a little bit more help defining and setting your goals and really getting to your goals and tracking your goals, then working one-on-one with a coach can be a really valuable relationship. Okay, so that is how we want to track our goals. Of course, there's a million other ways you could, but hopefully those are some creative new ways to think about when you get to tracking. Now, really quick before we get to our final step 5, I do want to address a common concern that I hear around goals. And what this would be, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning, is that tracking your goals is really time consuming, and that you just don't have time to do it, that you're too busy doing everything that you need to do in your day to do this. And I get that. What I think, honestly, that boils down to is overwhelm. So I think when you start feeling that you are feeling like you don't have time to do what you need to do to reach your goals or to track your goals, the first step is notice that. Notice that you're feeling that, and that should clue you in that you have a little bit of work to do. And here's the work that I want you to do at that point. Most likely you're feeling overwhelmed because your goal isn't broken down into a small enough, bite-sized enough chunk. So break your goal up smaller. For example, if you had broken down your goals and part of your weekly goal was that you were going to send out 5 follow-up emails, but you find that you're constantly feeling like you just don't have time to do your follow-ups. Well, what you might need to start doing is defining that even more. So write follow-up email to Stephanie about her quote. Write follow-up email to whoever about their quote expiring. Really just list down what those emails are going to be that you're going to do. And honestly, it is so much easier and quicker than to go in and just quickly shoot that email off to somebody knowing exactly what you need to write versus looking at a list of write 5 follow-up emails and having to figure out, okay, who should I write to? What should I write? So break your goal up smaller. Again, anytime that you start feeling that sense of overwhelm, that sense of you're too busy to track or to do your goals, stop, notice it, break your goal up into a smaller bite-sized-ish chunk. Making up words here. Okay, let's move on to our last step here, which is celebrate. Here's the thing, guys. I have gotten so much into this year the law of attraction and into manifesting, which felt like such a such a weird out there thing to me as I delved into it. But I am just enamored with this these days. And basically what it is that what you put out into the world comes back to you. So if you have thoughts that you're not able to make your goals, you're not going to be able to make your goals. If you put out into the world that you are capable of making your goals, then you get that back. And obviously this goes way deeper than that. But one of the key things to this, and why I brought this up, is that gratitude is so important. Approaching life, approaching our goals, approaching everything with a sense of gratitude will often result in doors being opened for you. And that is true with meeting your goals. So if you can approach your goals with gratitude, you will find that you are achieving them much quicker and much easier. So that's one way that I want you to celebrate. But the other thing about celebrating your goals is that I want you to celebrate them all along the way. So for example, if you are doing the chalkboard method, every time that you put some money on there and you check something off, I want you to do a little happy dance, do a little celebration. I often will put little hearts by what I track. It just is sort of my way of visually putting some gratitude to it. And making me feel like I'm in junior high some days. But so really help do that. It will help keep you motivated. The other thing is that with celebrating, you can and you should celebrate both formally and informally. So informally, like what I just mentioned, doing a little happy dance, noticing the small things as you go, and just sort of you know, maybe telling somebody about it. Those are kind of informal ways, right? But you also want to set up some formalized ways to celebrate meeting your goals. So for example, if you have a monthly goal to reach a certain amount, tell yourself that if you reach that, you're going out to a really nice dinner with your spouse or something like that. That would be a formal goal. Or maybe it's big. Maybe it's like, hey, if I get to June and I'm on track with my goals, I'm taking my family to Hawaii. Something like that, right? So formalized ways of really celebrating our goals. And with this, I want to do one more last little writing exercise with you guys. And I just want you to spend a little bit of time brainstorming what are some formal and informal ways that you can celebrate this year. And go ahead and just take a couple of minutes to write those down. All right, so that has brought us to the end here. So we went all through those 5 steps. So we talked about setting our goals, we talked about making them manageable bite-sized chunks, and at the same time making them something that is trackable, something that you're able to see if you are achieving them. We talked about making an action plan, putting dates to when we're going to do our goals, really setting ourselves up for some accountability here, and then moving into tracking our goals. We talked about all kinds of different ways to track your goals, and then we talked about celebrating meeting them. So you guys, with all of this in place, I firmly believe that we can get to that point in 2018 of really having met every goal that we wrote down at the beginning. If you do the work, if you show up as the person that you need to be to meet those goals, you can get to that place. So I definitely want to challenge you to go through and do this with all of your goals, put things into your calendar, set up your tracking systems. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more help, I am here, I'm available, would love to talk to you about what it would look like to do some one-on-one coaching. Or also, of course, find somebody in your community, in your life that can be an accountability partner. And I am just so excited to see where you go this year. I'm excited for myself too. I know, like I mentioned, I have some big goals for myself this year. And I am feeling really excited and really confident that I am going to get there. And I hope that that's where this workshop has left you as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to always shoot me an email. My email address is just ruth@weddingincubator.com, and I would love to answer, or hit me up on Facebook. I'm on there often in the Wedding Incubator group. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time and for joining me, and I look forward to seeing what you create in 2018.